Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. Just going to give it another minute or so to let some latecomers file in. Standing room only today, so just relax, order some drinks, and we'll be right back with you. Thanks. Hello, everyone. We're going to get started. Welcome to today's webinar, Contact-Free Purchase Cards from PEX. I'm Stephen Fishman, VP of Sales at Media Services, and today I'm ecstatic to welcome Rhett Keller, VP of Sales at PEX.
Thank
Rhett's
you
like
so much.
Oh, sure. Hey, Rhett.
Yeah.
Rhett's like a rock star. They call him the bad boy of P cards, actually. So I'm a bit intimidated, but I'm going to try to keep it together. Our payroll customers have been using PEX P cards for a few years now, and they tell us they find it to be the most intuitive and easy to use P card. And they also like the tremendous controls. So I want to have Rhett show us some of that here today. Rhett, I'll hand it off to you and go for it.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Stephen, for that warm introduction. I feel like I have a bunch of nicknames. Rockstar of P cards might be a new one, so I'm going to embrace that one and probably update my Slack profile at the same time.
There you go, and LinkedIn.
Yeah, and LinkedIn. So thank you, everybody, for joining us this afternoon. As Stephen mentioned, this is going to be a webinar introduction to the Media Services P cards powered by PEX. So a little background on PEX before we jump into the demo. So some of you may or may not have heard of us, but PEX is a fintech organization based out of Manhattan. So we've been around roughly about 10 years. We're one of the largest corporate prepaid card providers out there, servicing multiple verticals: film and production, nonprofits, churches, contractors, and obviously one of our key partners that we've been with over the past 2 years is Media Services. So we're really excited to continue to expand this relationship and enhance the integration that we have within our demo. So without further ado, I'm going to jump into the PEX platform where everybody can learn, how and why it's important to use the Media Services P card. As we've built out PEX as a solution, we went to a cloud-based solution, and within that cloud-based solution, we've provided the ability to work with Media Services and provide transaction detail in real time. So what you're seeing within my screen here is the PEX dashboard. So this is a solution that you can log directly in from pexcard.com, or you can access it via your mobile app. And as an admin, you're going to basically put the power and the controls that a bank typically has in your hands. So it's a self-service platform that's going to allow you to control how people spend, control where people spend, but more importantly is reconcile on demand. So within the film and entertainment space, it's really important to be able to close out your books as shoots are wrapped up. And so we allow that. So the reconciliation process, our reporting, everything happens instantaneously in real time. to take that burden off of the production accountants as they're and focus more on other items. So what we're seeing here is the media services dashboard. So admins, you can have as many admins as you'd like, can log in here. And within the dashboard, they're going to see kind of their high-level cash flow analysis. So you're going to see your PEX account balance, the available cards on the available funds on the cards, any pending card transactions, open card accounts, and ACH transfers that might be showing up. You'll also see a total ledger balance and card spend time. One of the great things as you log in as an admin into the dashboard is the notifications. So on the right-hand side here, we'll keep you up to date on new information that's coming from PEX, helpful tips, helpful tricks, if new cards or old cards need to be activated, or any type of spend that might not be important or could potentially be fraudulent spend, is going to pop right up here so you can be made aware, as well as card funding requests. So if any of you guys have ever used a Venmo service or a PayPal service, this site is actually linked up to the mobile apps. So your card holders, as they're out in the field making purchases, can very easily request funds to be put on their card, where you as an admin would be notified, and through a click of a button can very easily load the cards and track the history and the funding of the cards. Now, what I like to hit on here before we go deep is what we call multi-program access. So we'll work with a lot of clients that will have multiple productions happening simultaneously. Within PEX, you can do that. You can manage different teams, different departments, different groups through set budgets. And you can also have virtual card accounts. So if you need to make airline purchase tickets, if you need to do hotel blocks, you can do that directly through a virtual card account. For demo purposes today, I'm going to jump into the media services production account. This production A account you see has $5,000 that had been funded from the main account. And we're going to go into transactions. So on the transactions tab, you'll see where the money is moving within the PEX account. Since this is a program level account, you're going to be able to make transfers in and out of this program. So very easily, you can move money from Media Services Production A, which has $5,000, back into the corporate account, and you can pick that amount. So if you want to back $1,000 out of that production, you can schedule it or transfer it. You hit transfer, and instantaneously, that money gets put back into the main account at $15,000, and your production A account now only has $4,000. So through that transaction tab, you can move money between productions, move money between programs, and everything that we do within the PEX platform happens in real time. So I can't express that enough. This is basically payments on demand. So we're all about being quick and nimble. And that's everything from reconciliation to card production and card issuance, as well as just moving money between cardholders or accounts. Any questions about anything? I want to pause for a second because I know Steven's kind of monitoring the line on the other side.
Yeah, Brett, excellent. Okay, so one of the questions that's coming up right now is this webinar being recorded? Yes, it's definitely being recorded, and we we'll have it ready as soon as it's over. It'll be available for everyone. And also another question is this only for use with media services payroll?
That's a great question. So, PEX is available outside of the media services partnership. So you can get prepaid cards. You can refer friends and family over into the PEX platform if they have a small business or are part of a large organization. The benefit of the media services relationship with PEX is multiple. So, what we want to do is provide a great customer experience for media services clients. And so you're going to get a couple different features that I'm going to share throughout this demo or webinar. One of those things is custom reporting. So all of the transaction data is going to flow directly into MediaWeb, so you can review your transaction history. You can download MediaWeb specific reports and upload that. You're also taking advantage of a free service. So Media Services understands that this is an integral part of operating a production, and they don't want their clients to have to worry about P cards. So all of the features that I'm going to be talking about today typically fall in our pro level package. So if you were to be at pexcard.com and you were to go to the pricing page, you're going to see for-profit businesses at the pro level is a one-time setup fee of $49.95 and $200 a month for access to this platform. Because you're coming through Media Services and you're using their P card, those fees are completely waived. The other benefit of the Media Services relationship is getting cards out into the field quickly. So that's going to be a great transition into the cards tab. So as a Media Services client, as a MediaWeb client, you can order cards directly from your platform. You do not need to contact anybody. We do not need any personal information on your card holders, and you can rush deliver all of your card orders, which typically for an average customer would run anywhere from $35 to $45 per order. That is taken care of by the Media Services relationship. So you know, the benefits of this partnership run deep, and so we are super excited about it. But short answer to the question, Stephen, is yes, you can use PEX outside of MediaWeb, but we find most production accountants love the partnership and partner with Media Services because of that.
I think you also covered this, but real quickly, someone's asking for what is the total turnaround time if you're going to get a card issued for example, for like a commercial?
That's a great question. So while I'm answering that question, let's kind of go through an example card order, right? So let's just say Steven needs a new card. So I'm typing in Steven Fishman. You do not need personal information on the date of birth. One thing we do ask, I'm not going to share your birthday, Steven, don't worry.
Thank you.
We do ask that you do a historical date. That's part of the visa rule, so you can't have somebody that was born tomorrow or born next year as the date of birth. You can then type in the phone number that's tied to that card holder and the email address if you want them to be part of the notification system. Otherwise, you can do just a generic email address, right? So when I hit continue, I can now attention that card to Steven. I can ship it directly to his office or his home address, set up a custom billing address. So if you're shipping cards all around the country, provide a shipping contact number, and then 3 different options of getting those cards. The quickest way is the rush delivery. So this is what I was talking about a little bit earlier. If you're not part of the Media Services relationship, you know, you are going to be paying those fees. With the Media Services relationship, we always recommend doing rush delivery. So PEX has multiple card manufacturing facilities across the country so that we can get cards out quickly, both East Coast and West Coast. If you're shooting out on the West Coast, they're probably going to be coming out of Vegas. So we're typically seeing anywhere from a day to 2-day turnaround time. Once you place that order within this platform, you are going to get tracking information so you know when those cards arrive. Any questions about ordering cards?
I'm seeing, let's get one more question in here. Are there delays for approvals, and are there securities that stop a large-scale purchase until an admin approves them?
Are there delays for approvals? So no, as I mentioned, everything does happen in real time. So as people are making purchases with these P cards, production accountants will be able to review those transactions in real time, which I'm going to get to here in a second, and they can approve or reject those transactions. I do like to highlight that on that approve and reject, that does not mean that you're canceling the purchase. So the purchase did happen. When you're approving or rejecting, you're basically doing that from an accounting and reconciliation standpoint. So if Jack Fancy here had attached the incorrect receipt to that Walmart purchase, you might reject that, which will notify Jack to upload the correct receipt. All of that will then happen instantaneously. If it's in regards to funding of cards, let me just transfer over that before I get to the review section. We have very easily a quick fund option. So if Jack, who has $6,000, 156 bucks on his card, needs an additional $500, you can very easily type in $500, click the button. Literally instantaneously, Jack now has that $500 in the account. He can swipe that card to make a purchase of that level or of that dollar amount. So it happens instantaneously. There are no delays within the platform, and we strive to have 99.99% uptime with Visa compliance.
Excellent.
Okay.
I just want to let people know that there are a lot of questions, which is fantastic. And if we can't answer them during the webinar, we'll reach out to each one of you after the webinar and make sure we get them all answered.
Fantastic, fantastic. So while we're living in the cardholder section of the admin tab, I just want to take a deeper dive, right? So we've already covered how to order cards. Again, you can order cards individually. You can do a bulk card order, and you can get those cards shipped out as quickly as possible, track it. But let's take a deep dive into individual cardholder activities. So what we're looking at here within the dashboard is, very high level, you have your cardholder names. In the event you're wanting to use the group functionality and break them out by department, you would assign them a group. Or you want to control how they're actually spending, you can apply a spend policy. And so I'm gonna jump into this stuff a little bit so you can understand how customizable PEX is, right? So if I'm gonna go into Jack's card specifically, you're gonna see an image of the card with the last 4 digits. If Jack needs to make an online purchase and doesn't have his card handy, he can very easily click View Card Details. You'll see the card number appear with the CVV code, the expiration date, and a timer. So everything is audited. So whoever's viewing these card details and is about to make a purchase can be tracked on the back end of the system. So we show those details for a short period of time, and then it's going to disappear. Within Jack's card, you're going to see all the transactions. So, as mentioned previously, these are corporate prepaid cards. So they are not credit cards. So transactions do happen in real time, which helps for quicker settlement. And you can see them come through as soon as the transaction hits the merchant. Before I go into individual transactions and start talking about accounting and reconciliation, I want to go into the spend rules, right? So, P cards have multiple different use cases across organizations. Within the production space, I would say the most common control that's going to be put in place is really going to be at the card balance level, right? So Jack's card here has $6,600 on here. He's not going to be purchasing over that amount because it's a prepaid card. But in the event you have a runner on the production or a volunteer who might need to run out and buy something for a costume, you may have a generic costume design card that you want to activate and allow them to run over to Walmart to make a purchase. You can apply spend rules that can be customized and turned on and off at the cardholder level within each individual card. Couple of the features that I just want to talk about, I'm not going to go too deep into it because it can get super complex, but what we're trying to do within these corporate P card space is mirror the policy that aligns with how an organization wants to operate. So if you have a expense policy, a lot of times that gets issued out to employees. This is an opportunity to actually make that a real live breathing thing. So you're going to apply the rules that make sense for that specific employee. You're going to have general rules here listed out. One of the most common ones is use PEX account balance instead of card balance. So what this is enabling you to do is to, instead of have to worry about funding Jack's card, anytime he makes a transaction, it will draw down from the main account. So think of this more as operating almost like a credit card. Again, it is a prepaid card, but you don't have to worry about continuing to add funds, and you can control where it's used, right? So international use, card not present use, and then put time-based spend limits on it, right? So you can add a per week, per month, per year, or lifetime budget to that specific cardholder. And then you can even dig a little bit deeper and do merchant categories. So we've taken some of the most common Visa merchant category codes and grouped them up for simple use. If you wanted to drive deeper down and block specific merchants, you can always do that with the help of your PEX customer success manager, where they can identify certain locations that you want to use the card specifically. We'll also limit days for spending. So if you have people that are not working on weekends, you can just block that out and just say they're only allowed to purchase on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. And you can control which states they're allowed to purchase in and block or turn on states. This is all done very easily within the platform. Nothing gets set in stone. So if you turn on one state today and you need to turn on another state tomorrow, you can very easily log in, self-serve, and be very nimble with how you operate. Within the card details, you're also going to have statements. So each card holder does have their own individual statement. You can download those statements directly here. As I mentioned, this is a dummy demo environment. So when you hit download the statement, it would actually pull into your report section. But since there's no statement in this environment, you're not going to be able to see that, unfortunately. Again, if anybody has a follow-up question on what a cardholder statement looks like, by all means, ping Steven and we can send you a couple examples. They'll both be delivered both in PDF or CSV, depending on your preference. And then you can also change your statement dates, right? So your business statement date can be the 1st, 8th, whatever day of the month you want. And you can select that and then set that up directly at the cardholder level, as well as receipt reminders, right? So if you want to turn on a receipt reminder, you can basically hit remind receipts and say, hey, any transaction that Jack makes over $25, I want him to get a notification. So when that transaction settles, he's going to get a push notification to upload a receipt back into his mobile app or into his cardholder desktop. So moving back over to his card. Before I go into scheduled card funding, I want to pause and see if there are any questions.
Of course. Okay. So a few people are asking, so Rush is free with media services relationship? A few people are asking that. And then along with that, what about using the cards digitally for online purchases? Can that happen before the physical card arrives?
Great question. Great question. So yes, we do have a virtual card product. So it's going to be similar to what we see here, right? So in the event that you want a virtual card application for any type of capital expenditures or large purchases that you don't want an individual cardholder to do, you'll have a virtual card account that you can jump into. The biggest difference between a virtual card program and the regular standard PEX program is when you create a card in the standard program, this card and this card number doesn't appear until that manufacturer ships that card. Within the virtual card program, you're going to create a card and it's going to appear instantaneously, and it's going to allow you to make that transaction for the amount that you want, and then you can reconcile it under the review transaction section, which I'm about to go to in a minute. But so this is really important, is as people get their productions green lit and funding hits their bank account, they want to get cards and get spend up and running as quickly as possible. All of that streamlined onboarding process, which I'm going to talk about here at the end and how to get set up, all of that's happening behind the scenes and the cards are being delivered. But now you can actually make purchases instantaneously. So you can book airline tickets, you can do hotel blocks, whatever you need to. You don't have to wait for a physical card to arrive with the PEX platform.
Okay.
What's that?
You want to answer one more? How does PEX integrate with Media Web? I'm sure you're going to get into that. And how does Media Services manage the funding of the cards?
Yes, so I'll take the funding of the cards, and then I'm going to cover the Media Web section here as we move down the list. In regards to funding of the cards, so it does tie a little bit into the onboarding experience. So the benefit of the Media Services P card is a streamlined onboarding experience. So in the event you want to launch with these cards, you can very easily contact your Media Services sales rep and say, hey, I want to take advantage of the media services P cards, we instantly will turn on a media services P card account for you. And then all you have to do is wire your money over to media services to be dropped into that production. So, you know, we've seen programs launched as quick as same day, which is fantastic. But the average time of setup is usually about 24 hours. The reason this is important is because if you were looking at any other P card provider out there, if it's a credit solution, you're going to have an underwriting experience. If it's another corporate prepaid card, you're going to be going through the due diligence to set up an online bank account and following the KYC requirements that go along with it. So we've streamlined that whole process with this relationship that allows you to get an instant card account created where you just wire the money in and it gets dropped in and you're off and running. I will get the media web integration on the review and reports section.
You want to handle just one more question for now?
Yeah, let's fire them off. It's
all right. Careful what you ask for. So, is there support for individual card holders, or is that on us?
No, that is a great question. So, with the media services P cards powered by PEX, every individual cardholder has 24-hour cardholder support. So they have a number that they can contact directly off the back of their card. If they have any trouble logging into their app, if they need a password reset, you know, some of those basic functionalities, or to check the balance. It's not super common because most of the functionality that a cardholder needs is found within their mobile app, but they do have that 24-hour support. On top of that, as an admin, as a production accountant, with this relationship, you are actually getting New York or West Coast based admin support. So at the admin level, you don't have to call an offshore call center. So any questions about disputes or returns or compromised cards, you know, you're going to be speaking with somebody based on our West Coast location or on the East Coast location to help satisfy those needs, as well as any customization that you may want to do around some of our advanced features. Okay. Last thing on the card details that I want to cover is the PIN and the fund option, right? So we have a couple transactions. I'll go into the review section. But these are corporate prepaid debit cards. So they automatically come set up to handle a PIN, but a PIN is not assigned. So you as admins can decide if you want to assign a PIN or not. We typically recommend that you just run these cards through as credit. So at the time of either inserting the chip card or at the time of swipe, if you select credit, there's no PIN required. I do highlight that you may have to set up a PIN on these cards if you're doing any type of purchases at stores like Costco, Sam's Club, BJ's, any of those big box stores may require a PIN. The reason I like to highlight is the credit transaction is twofold. One, it is easier. And two, as an admin, it's once that PIN is forgotten, if that cardholder does not know their PIN, to reset the PIN, they do have to contact PEX directly to get that reset. So for security purposes, it gets very strict. So in the event you don't want to manage everybody's PIN, we always recommend just either picking a default PIN or selecting credit at the time of the transaction. So just know that that PIN details is available. And then you have your funding option. So just like I talked about in the quick fund option, if you're just in your cardholder's details, you can just type in the amount that you want to add, or you can type the letter Z and zero out that balance. When you talk about spend limits on that card, you can click on your spend limits tab and you can see what type of limits you've put in place for those specific cardholders if you're using some of those advanced features. Okay, so as we move along, I'm going to kind of transition on the back half of this webinar to the accounting and reconciliation, right? So far we've covered multi-program access, we've covered virtual cards, the dashboard, how to order cards, how to do the card preview, and the ability to set up spend rules. The back half of this webinar, I want to focus more on the accounting, which is probably what most people care about. So I'm going to stay with Jack's card here specifically. So as you can see, there's tons of different transactions that have happened. You'll see some pending transactions, and then you'll see some not reviewed transactions. I just want to jump into the Walmart transaction here, right? So on June 19th, 2020, it appears that Jack had made a purchase at Walmart, and it shows that a receipt was there. When you jump into the transaction specifically, you can see all of the merchant details, right? So which location at Walmart, the settlement amount, the settlement date, the merchant category, the merchant country, currency code, that's all going to be there, as well as obviously an image of the receipt. The beauty of these receipts is if you're doing any type of grocery purchases, you can add multiple receipts. You can also edit the receipt, right? So if you want to zoom in, you can continue to just blow that up. You can zoom out, you can crop it, you can rotate it. All of those functions around images are going to be available. And then you can approve or reject, right? So in the event that that's not the correct receipt, you can reject that or approve it. I'm not going to do that just yet. We'll come back to that here in a second, but just wanted to show you some of the edit features. In this example, and this happens quite often, if you're running multiple productions, you might have somebody sent out to Walmart or Home Depot to buy set materials for 2 different series, right? So if you're running an evergreen series or a scripted series, you can make that purchase, then you can split the purchase, right? So from an accounting code perspective, you may want to split the amounts, right? So you can pick the amounts that you want, or you can pick the percentages that you want. So if I want 25% of that purchase to go to this job code and this cost code, and I want 75% to go to the other, you can very easily split the transaction, add a note on maybe why you split that transaction, or a note back to the cardholder on what might need to be adjusted for that transaction. One thing I do highlight here, as you can see this red bar here, right? So we do have the feature for optical character recognition. So if you are filming or shooting in a location that has tax incentives, we can actually turn on OCR. So when that receipt is uploaded, it will scan the receipt for the taxes paid on that transaction. So you can very easily report out how much taxes were paid so you can get reimbursed for that. So we have our OCR specific to pulling out taxes for this industry. So you can very easily report on how much taxes were paid at the soup. I want to stop right there, Stephen, see if you got any questions from the large group. Or
people are asking, how does it integrate with Showbiz budgeting?
Great question. So, Showbiz budgeting is obviously a budgeting tool. So when you're making those transactions and you're reviewing those transactions, you're very easily going to be able to go into your reports, select your report type, and within the export section, you'll have your Showbiz budgeting file that you can upload in, right? So PEX card is listed as an option for your P card spend within Showbiz budgeting. So once you put that budget together and you start spending, you can tie those transactions back to the original budget that was set. So we have a specific report found within the export section of your reports tab specific to Showbiz budgeting. While I'm here, I just want to talk a little bit more about reports, right? So we have, I would say, 99% of the reports right out of the box for most accounting needs. In the event you need a custom report, we can absolutely provide it. PEX prides themselves on the data and how we deliver it back to our clients. So the whole idea here is to allow your people in the field to spend, but the people that are doing the reconciliation is make it easy for them. So if we need to optimize a report, we're happy to do that for you. But if you are using MediaWeb, you're going to have your specific media services files already pre-set up for you, and you can determine if you want to use approved, settled transactions from a TXT upload file, or if you want to manipulate in a CSV file. So all of those come right out of the box from your reporting needs, so you don't have to worry about any special request. You can then also schedule your reports. You can look at your report history, and you can pull your full account statements directly from the Reports tab.
So there's reporting available per cardholder spend, right?
There is. So let's go into, I want to jump into settlement detail as an example for the group. And let's take a look at a preview, right? So we hit preview. For demo purposes, it's always easier to show the preview directly from this. If you've decided this is the transaction detail that you want, you can generate a CSV, or you can go back and pull the media web file. One thing I like to highlight here is you're going to see all of the different types of detail that we capture at the cardholder level, at the merchant level. But as I scroll over to the right, I might have went too far. Let me see here. And go back a little bit further. Here we go. You will see if a receipt has been attached to that transaction. You will see the review status, and if it's been approved or rejected, it's going to tell you who actually reviewed and who reviewed or rejected the file. So the settlement detail, or the spend by card, is always a fantastic report to just get a quick snapshot of how things are operating and making sure that your cardholders are sending through receipts, so you don't get to the end of a shoot or the end of a month and have to then generate a report to go chase down a bunch of receipts. So, you know, one of our goals is to make the spend and append piece of accounting on the cardholder level as easy as possible to make it easier on the production accountants.
Can the cards be used to withdraw cash at an ATM? And if they can you put a limit on that?
That is a fantastic question. Comes up quite often. So these cards do not have cash access. So I do want to highlight that. In the event one of your cardholders does go to an ATM and try to withdraw money, they will be declined. What we do find is that the majority of transactions out there can be satisfied with a Visa prepaid card, but there's zero cash access on these cards, and they do not have the ability to buy gift cards as well. So any type of cash transaction, peer-to-peer payment is not allowed through these cards, primarily tied to money laundering issues, right? So we keep tight compliance on these cards to ensure the safety of both the cardholders, but more importantly, the entity's money that's in the program.
Okay.
All right. So we talked about reports. I'm going to jump back to review because I want to spend a little bit of time on this, because there's a couple different ways that people will operate within PEX, right? So we do have PEX super users who will basically be reviewing all of their transactions, doing all of their accounting needs within this platform, and then pulling the file over to MediaWeb. Or you may just be using PEX as a spend tool where you're issuing cards, letting people spend, and then you're reconciling outside of PEX. In the event you do want to use PEX to the fullest capabilities, within your review section, like I mentioned, you're going to see your receipts, you're going to see your tags, you're going to see your notes. All of that communication that happens on the notes can go back and forth between the admin and the cardholder, which then you can also report on it, right? If there's any unattached transactions, what that basically means is there are transactions out there that have not had receipts tied to them. You're going to be able to see those here, where you can get a head start on the accounting GL code tagging while you're waiting for the receipt, or you can ping the cardholder directly for that receipt so that you're not held up collecting receipts. So your review tab is basically going to be where you're looking at individual transactions, figuring out the process of do you want to approve or reject. Again, if you do reject, you can put the reason in here. So incorrect receipt. That transaction is now back with the cardholder, right? And so they are now going to be able to go back into it. It's removed from this list. and it allows the cardholder to go back in and make any type of adjustments. Please add correct job code, cost code. Now you no longer have any transactions to review. Within the business settings, this is where you're going to find all of your profile details, right? So the business name, the plan that you're on. Again, as a media services client, as a media services P card holder, it's the main thing on your plan details is just how many open cards you have per month. This platform is free, so you will not be billed for your services, and you can obviously cancel at any time. So you just let your account manager at Media Services or your customer success manager at PEX know that you are ready to cancel, and that money will be reversed out of their P card account and back into your corporate checking account. Within your business, oh, yes,
let me
sorry.
interrupt you for 1 second. Just a quick question. So is the crew member uploading the receipt from the app?
Yes, they do. They do have the ability to log in directly from their computer as well, so they can upload receipts from their computer as well. We find that most people are very reliant on their mobile phone, and so they're doing the majority of their tagging and reconciliation at the cardholder level within the mobile app, which is also a great way to tease out Apple Pay, which will be rolling out for the media services relationship in the coming weeks, if you will. So that we can move more towards touchless payments and not have to worry about physically handling a card. So within the business settings, you have your external bank accounts. If you were to actually go through the KYC process and want to fund the account yourself, you'll have your spend policies if you want to create a new policy for a cardholder. The merchant categories are all listed here. But most importantly is the tag manager, right? So PEX tags are basically, general ledger accounting codes. We call them tags because they are completely customizable. So you are not limited in the amount of tags that you can apply to a transaction. And more importantly is you can name those tags, select the type of tag, and what type of enabled or required you want. So real quick, in the sake of time, I just want to show you the ability to create a new tag. So we're going to call this tag hotel transactions and tag for hotel purchases. This is a required value. It's a drop down. You can add a new option. So display as, let's just say Hilton, and your GL code might be XYZ123 or 123. I'm going to create this tag. The reason this is important is when I go into it, the cardholder sees the display as, right? So most cardholders don't understand all of the accounting codes that an operation might be operating with. But in order to make it a little bit easier on the cardholder to help tag those transactions, they might see the production or the series that they're on, that they can do it for, or the specific department, if it's a cost center or cost code. We want to display it to them as easy as possible. So when they upload that receipt, they're immediately prompted to attach a tag, and then the admin can review it. Once you update a tag, you can then also reorder the tags and how you want them to appear, or you can disable the tags. All of your accounting information from prior months is always going to be stored, so you don't have to worry about deleting a tag and that affecting any type of historical data. PEX does maintain your data for, we're required up to 5 years. We do it up to 7 years. So in the event there's ever an audit, you can always pull your transaction data. A lot of our larger enterprise clients will actually at the end of the year just download all of the data onto their own servers, which we can help you with that as well. As we're getting close to the end, I just want to see if there's any more questions before I hit our apps section and then reiterate around the pricing and onboarding.
Well, there was another follow-up question to the uploading the receipts from the app. Is there a way to do notifications in the app?
Yeah, so it's already built, right? So if somebody doesn't, maybe I went over that a little bit too quickly. but you can set up receipt reminders for the cardholders. So those are push notifications, right? So anytime if that cardholder has the push notification set up, anytime that a transaction settles that doesn't have a receipt over a certain amount, they're going to get pinged until that receipt is attached or the admin approves that transaction, basically saying, hey, there's no receipt, but we're okay. We're gonna move this over into MediaWeb. So yes, there are push notifications for receipt reminders, as well as any type of notifications around declines when your money's put on your card. So there's lots of communication between the platform and the mobile app.
Can the cardholder just take a picture of a receipt and push it to the app?
Yes, so they can either take a picture directly from their phone and store it in their photo library, and then when they log into the app, they can upload it, or at the time of the purchase, they just log into the app. It'll pull up that transaction, and they just upload. They just snap a picture directly in.
Very slick.
Yes. Again, I can't highlight enough. The idea here is to help make accounting simpler for the people that have to manage the reconciliation. So the more that we can have these cardholders help out, it tends to make it a lot easier. Last thing I want to jump into, whoops, let me go back, is our apps section. So as mentioned, your MediaWeb files are going to be found within your reports exports. In the event you have some other accounting solution that you want to use, this is within the apps that you're going to find that. So funding schedulers, the mobile app where you can link that up, QuickBooks Desktop, QuickBooks Online, any type of direct syncs are going to be found within the app section. You basically can log in. These are basically connectors. So then you can start syncing your transaction data within there as well.
Can we pause a card when we're not active on a project?
Yes, you absolutely can. So I missed that, and I apologize. That's a fantastic question. So let's say Jack Fancy is done with his spend, the production's wrapped. You have a couple different options here, right? So his card is showing active and he's got $6,600. You can move him to blocked. That does not terminate the card. So you can leave the money on the card. If that card's used, it obviously will not work. Or if Jack lost his card, left it in an Uber, doesn't know where it is, you immediately block that card. You can also just type the letter Z, remove the funds. He goes down to a zero balance. Jack contacts his production accountant or his admin. He found his card. You turn that card back on, and you can add $6,000. And he is back and running. Whoops, I don't have enough money on my account anymore. You notice that notification happened. So Jack is only going to get $3,000 now. And now he has $3,000 to spend. In the event Jack is no longer with a production, you want to terminate the card from your list. You just go into the specific card, you go into the profile, and you close the card account. Just as a reminder, everybody, when you do close a card account, that card is terminated forever. There is no turning it back on. So if Jack needs to spend, you would have to order him a new card. So you only close a card account when you're completely done with it or you've completely lost it. As the cards arrive, they'll come in the inactive status. You can very easily turn them to active, and they're up and running. Everything does happen instantaneously, and you can control these cards by searching by the name, by the group, however you want to do it.
So Rhett, for a lost or stolen card, do you just close that out?
That's correct, yes. So if Jack's card is lost, you don't have to contact anybody. Again, completely self-serve. What is obviously recommended is you want to take the dollars off of Jack's card. That $3,000 goes back up into the production account. You don't even have to worry about active or blocked. You would go in here, whoops, profile, close the card account, and it's done.
And one more question, can you move a card from one project to another?
That is a great question. And so the one limitation with these cards is you cannot move cards between productions. So what a lot of our customers will do, or a lot of media services customers will do, is utilize the tagging functionality to allocate the spend on specific cards back to specific productions, right? So Jack could end up making a transaction for production B, and he can do that through a GL code cost allocation, so that when you pull a roll-up report of all of your production spend, that specific transaction is tied back to the appropriate production. The one thing you cannot do is have Jack move his card over into a different account. So that is one limitation. That's a Visa security thing. Each of these cardholder accounts are specific to the account that they are in. So you can either utilize the tag functionality to bounce the transaction between the productions, or Jack could essentially have two cards in his wallet. One's for production A and one's for production B. Okay. So we got about 9 minutes left. As Stephen mentioned, unless there's any other questions, Stephen, I wanted to pull back up the closing slide and talk a little bit more about the streamlined onboarding experience and benefit of the media services card. Do we have anything else out in the audience, or we're good to go?
It's good for right now.
Okay. So as Stephen mentioned, I want to thank everybody for joining. If there's anything you want to go deeper dive on, by all means, feel free to reach out to him, reach out to myself. We're going to share our contact information. But there's two things that I just wanted to close with as we move towards the end of this webinar. And so, when you need P cards, if you very easily contact your media services sales rep or Stephen specifically, we can have those accounts set up instantaneously. As mentioned before, the benefits of this relationship is streamlined onboarding experience and immediate account activation and card delivery. So we strive to do that as quickly as possible. And so that is without a doubt one of the biggest benefits. Also, if you're doing any type of additional research on PEX, you can obviously go to pexcard.com. You can see the various use cases. You'll see testimonial videos. I just like to highlight again, through this partnership, you're getting all of the features that I just spoke about on this webinar, which are basically the pro level features found on our pricing tab at no cost to you. So media services wants to take care of their customers and make this a seamless process, and P cards are part of that process. So do not worry about the pricing, but just know that those features are able for you guys to take advantage of. And I think that is what I have for today.
All right. Well, I think we're done with the questions for now. I just wanted to thank you very much, Rhett, and of course, thank everyone for attending. And like I said earlier, we'll definitely have a recording of this for you later today. But get in touch with us anytime, because you can find us at mediaservices.com, and we'll see you at the next one. See you at the next webinar. Thanks very much.
Thanks, guys. Have a great afternoon.